I'm receiving very interesting questions and that I'm trying to address with these videos by my students. And by the way, if you're one of my students, please join the free Discord group available. Just send an email or WhatsApp, I'll pass you the link. One question that I think it's very interesting that I received recently from one of my students is the following one. Nei Qi Gong really emphasizes direct experience versus, the Daoist tradition that is more, let's say, literal-based thing. And I think the question says, is it a kind of a modern approach to this internal alchemy process, or what's really going on? Why we're really going into that direction of being very practical, very direct? Well, the reason is very simple in the beginning. We are not fooling ourselves. If a system works, we should have certain results. And the theory needed to achieve those results should be minimum just to accomplish the job. Because we are talking about something quite delicate and invisible in the beginning and not really that strong in terms of perception in the beginning. So if we start to have too many ideas, we start to fantasize about things rather than doing something, seeing the result and building on that. I usually say to my students from the first program, I really encourage skepticism towards the practice, towards myself, towards your own experiences. Day by day, when you practice, stay empty. Just execute the practices in the best way you can. Follow the instructions. Don't add anything on it, because you color the practice, you change the nature of the practice, and then, it might not even work because you're doing something else rather than following what you are supposed to do. So answering the question about this apparent divergence of this Daoist approach and the Nei Qi Gong approach. The reason is fairly simple. I don't know much about it. I don't know the person who wrote, the actual person. I never spoke with Lao Tzu or Jiaoshi or other revered masters or philosophers or teachers about this. But the reason is this. We have to speak as human beings. And the times are quite different. So we also use a different kind of language because society evolves, and with that it means also the way we see things, it becomes different. Think about nowadays. Nowadays, less and less people believe in religion or they have a spiritual approach to life. This is a society which is going towards a more scientific and more intellectual approach towards things. So talking in that way will not be useful, because people will not, understand what they're talking about. So when we take this kind of text and we read about this mystical explanation, life explanation, first of all, we have to understand it's the attempt of somebody who's trying to deliver an inner experience into words, which is already a failing attempt. Because as I said many times, experiences cannot be shared. Experience needs to be lived firsthand. So if I want somebody to have my similar, which probably is going to be different, but similar experience, I can only give some direction or tools or a roadmap and say to the person, walk that direction, turn left, right, and then you will see a tower. The experience of that tower thing is going to be different from it. It's the same tower, but the way we see it is going to be different. This is on a very superficial level, because at the core, there is something that we all share, which is our attention. And our attention is quite undefinable and mysterious, and we all have the same experience, because that thing is one, it's shared. It's not based on personality, on superficial stuff. So on that thing, for sure, we can all have the same kind of approach.
Morning.
But when we talk about this kind of apparent divergence of the way we teach, which is quite practical, to the way that, we can read, at least on this kind of historical, mystical text, it's different. First of all, because these are more philosophical things. But philosophical things that, they become empty because we don't know the experience of them. We don't have the experience of these people. So we just hear this word. And the words are not the experience. So it means that I will not understand what they're really talking about. And it's quite interesting that my students brought up these questions, because I never read anything like this. Only recently, from time to time, it happened to glance, put my eyes on some kind of text like this, and I can really understand what the person is talking about, only because I walked the path already. So when he's describing certain things, I can understand the kind of analogy that he's making. Like, for instance, when we talk about energy, we can make analogies about energy, and if somebody has a direct experience of it, can really understand what we're trying to say. Even when we talk about a different density, different qualities, if we don't have that reference, it's just a tale. So if I'm trying to learn from a tale, from a story, from a philosophical, from a description approach, from a description, I will never be able to move really. Reading those texts will become more a form of entertainment, unless we have already walked the path. That's my opinion. Because as I said in another video, probably, this kind of work that we're doing, it requires so much attention, so much ability of seeing things clearly, so much unpolluted observation, that if I start to put other content on it, I will go somewhere else. So in my opinion, and my suggestion is towards my students, is not to read. When you find out you have certain experiences, talk to me, and I will help you validate. Or maybe then if you read something, you will understand it. Because if you only read in the beginning, the possibility is that you go into illusion. Illusion is very dangerous, because also the way certain things are expressed, we can have a totally different vision of life, and even lose touch with reality. That's the problem with illusion. Because if I put my, let's say, if I rely on my direct experience without adding with my mind, those are facts. If I rely on text, like those texts which have been written with different wordings due to the times that they were living in, and those wordings are not real experiences, the problem is that I start to build my understanding of life based on illusion, and I can go really far on this. When we go really far, then we can call it even insanity. We can even call it really schizophrenia. We can call it, losing touch with reality. And especially that can happen if sometimes we mix our spiritual journey with drugs or with potent components or such medicinal plants, mushrooms, ayahuasca, all those things, which by the way I've tried, so I know what I'm talking about. So it becomes really dangerous. Or even smoking marijuana daily, this thing, it can really become dangerous, the whole process. Because instead of finding out about this less dense aspect of reality that we call spirituality, still practical, we go into fantasizing a lot. So there's no a real divergence between the Daoist teaching and the Nei Qi Gong teachings. Nei Qi Gong is the practical form of what a philosophical outcome might look like. However, Nei Qi Gong in itself does not provide that philosophical aspect, that seriousness needed, which otherwise, might screw even your personal growth aspect, in the sense that Nei Qi Gong is a neutral amplifier. If we are genuine, if we are watching this video, if you're interested into this kind of topic, if you're asking yourself bigger questions, if you're trying to grow seriously as a human being, then Nei Qi Gong becomes super powerful, and those things reported into the text might make lots of sense for you at a later stage. But in the beginning, they can be very harmful. So my suggestion is just to stay open. You decided to enroll maybe on this course, or you're doing some kind of other course, just walk all the way, see where it takes you, see what kind of improvement you are able to achieve. Ask your teacher certain questions that can be a little bit more philosophical to have some clarification. And in that way, move with your own steps. But at the bottom, there's no difference between the two.